The Jeff Cowan coming to you from thejeffcowan.com with my weekly podcast entitled Success in Professional Sales and Life in General. Welcome back, everybody. I've got a great message for you. It's not only a sales message, but it is a message that has a life lesson in it for you as well. You know, due to my writing books and writing articles and doing the workshops and things I do, it's not uncommon for me to get phone calls from people who are just getting out of high school, just graduating college, or maybe they're in a career and they're looking to make a career change. And the question that I get asked is, why sales? Why would I want a career in sales? Why a professional sales career? And you know, there's probably dozens and dozens. As a matter of fact, I know there's dozens of ways you can answer that. I mean, number one, you don't have to have an education to be a great salesperson. Number two, there's literally been billions of people that have walked in the shoes of a salesperson before you even start, if you start today. So there's a great roadmap out there. It's something that you can teach yourself. You can learn very, very quickly. You can make an unbelievable amount of income if you're really good at it. And to a great degree, there's a lot of freedom for you to come and go as you please. But probably the biggest reason that drew me to it was simply the word security. You see, I noticed when I was a young boy, I was always aware of what was going around and I paid attention. And going on around me, and I paid attention. And one of the things I noticed at a very early age, I'm talking maybe 13, 14 years old, that when times were good or times were bad, it seems like the salesperson was always the one that companies depended on the most. You know, it seemed like they were the ones, if things got really bad, were the last to be let go. And it made sense to me because what I also understood is that you could have the best product in the world, you could have the best service in the world, you could have the best of everything, but if there wasn't somebody who could sell it, it was all for naught. So the salesperson was somebody that if you could do it and do it well, would be somebody that would never be unemployed. That's what drew me to it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some stories with you that I hope supports what I'm trying to say here. So here's the first one. You know, my dad was a very hardworking guy. He was a truck driver. He delivered liquor and alcohol to pubs, bars, restaurants, and liquor stores. He did it for 29 and a half years. That's all he knew because that's all he ever did. Very hardworking guy. He was the guy that paid his union dues, went to the union meetings. He was the guy that was out of the house every morning at 6 a.m., many days not returning until after 6 p.m. or maybe as late as 7 or 8. I mean, he was a hard-working guy. He gave it his all every single day. Now, as I've described in other videos and podcasts, I was raised in a very humble background. I mean, you know, we weren't destitute. We always had a roof over our head. We always had food in our stomach. And I always felt like I was loved. But I know that my parents lived hand to mouth because there was a great deal of sickness in the family. I know for a fact there were many times my dad walked out that front door to go drive that truck all day with a hole in his shoe so that his kids wouldn't have to wear shoes with holes in them. I know there were many days he walked out there without a lunch bag in his hand or money for lunch so that to go drive that truck all day so that his kids would have lunch money at school and could eat. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he was. Well, you know, the whole time that I was growing up, you know, my parents really never had they never got new cars. They never went on vacations. You know, they never had a lot of the fun stuff in life that most of us would just consider normal stuff. But by the time my dad had driven that truck for 29 years, finally all the kids had moved out of the house. Finally, things started to come around. My mom and dad were able to put some money back, and he knew that he was always going to retire at the end of the 30th year. Now, his retirement was set up so that when it did happen, my mom and dad, for the first time in their life, were going to get to experience some of the fun things in life. They were going to get a brand new car. They were going to go on a vacation every couple of years. They were going to go out to restaurants and go to dinner when they wanted to with friends and whatnot. I mean, in 1 year, he was going to be able to live the life that he'd worked so hard to provide for himself and my mom. And everybody was euphoric about it. We were all excited. But then this happened. 29 and a half years in, my dad goes to work with just 6 months before retirement. 6 months before retirement to find the front doors, the company that he worked with for 29 and a half years, locked. You see, the company had filed bankruptcy. The reason they filed bankruptcy is because the original owner of the company who sold it to his son-in-law, his son-in-law was a severe alcoholic, drank all the profits away, and the business had to file bankruptcy. They lost all their accounts and everything, right? Well, my dad, being the big union guy that he was, we thought the fallback would be that, you know, the union was going to take care of him, right? Isn't that what they're supposed to do? But he found out within hours of finding out that the company had closed down that he was only going to get 10 cents on the dollar, and that's what he ended up getting. It crushed my mom and it crushed my dad. I mean, I remember right after it happened, he stopped by my place and in near tears telling me he didn't know what he was going to do. Because see, at 58 years old, retiring from driving a truck, knowing that it's the only thing he knew how to do, nobody was going to hire him. He knew that as a truck driver. And so the result is eventually my mom and dad lost their house, nearly lost everything. And my dad, at the age of 58 and a half years old, had to go to work at a high school as an entry-level janitor and clean toilets for the next 8 years for minimum wage. And I look back at that and I see that he did everything right. He did nothing wrong. He did everything the way you're supposed to do it. He worked hard. He supplied. He was in the unions. He supported everything he was supposed to do. He was a retired veteran from the Korean War, very decorated veteran from the Korean War. He'd done everything right, but it was at the end of the day, it wasn't in his control, and everything he'd worked for was taken away and it was out of his control. You see, there was no security. You know, even more recently, my wife. I love my wife. She's a great wife. She's a hot wife in every respect. She's a smart lady, and she has worked ever since she's been 16 years old. The last 22 years of her life, she was an executive assistant for a business owner. Not only an executive assistant, but to a great degree, a personal assistant as well. Very close relationship with this person and their entire family, worked together very closely. I mean, there was many, many times that me and my family's needs were put on hold so that he would get what he needed for his business and his family and whatnot. And after 22 years, they decide they're going to do away with the executive assistant position. And here's what they told my wife. You know, we're going to take this position away. We no longer need it. And we know you're a hard worker. We know that you've always been dedicated, but we no longer have a place. Now, this is a company that has 400 employees in it. And when she said, well, gee, you know, I was not ready to retire. I was wanting to work at least another year to 2 years. You knew that. Is there something you can find me to do? And they said, well, if you want to scan documents, make copies for us, and be a file clerk at minimum wage, you can do that. After 22 years, that's what she gets. And I know my wife wasn't a pain in the butt to me, but I know she was a hard worker because I have a lot of friends that work for that company, and that's what they've always told us is how hard working she is, how dedicated she is, how much she's respected, and the like. She's gotten awards throughout the years for the dedication that she's done and the like. But again, it was out of her control, and it ended like that, okay, like that. Now, we were lucky. Because with me, I've had a very fortunate career. I've been very successful with my own business, and we do very, very well. She was getting ready to retire in 12 to 24 months anyway, because we'd been talking about the last couple of years. So it's not going to make us destitute. It's not going to be like when my parents were. But I sit around and I think about some of the friends I have who are not as lucky, and they could have lost everything. You know, could have lost everything. But after 22 years, that's what she gets. Now, there's one final story I want to tell you here. All right? And this is a great story. It's a hard story for me to tell, but it's a great story. It goes back to 2008. In 2008, September of that year, as everybody knows, we had the Great Recession. Now, at 2008, most of my business was tied to the automotive industry, and as you probably know, two of the major manufacturers in the automotive industry, Chrysler and General Motors, filed bankruptcy. Two companies I was doing a lot of business with. I was doing a lot of business with their dealerships and the like. So when that hit, I mean, I literally overnight lost 70%, 70% of my income. Nobody would take my telephone calls. Nobody would call me. I mean, everything stopped. Now, this was at a time where I just had gotten remarried to Candy, my wife. We just bought a brand new house, parked 3 brand new cars in the driveway, completely furnished the house. I mean, because we didn't see it coming, didn't see it coming. But here's the great part of the story. You know, that following April 2009, was the lowest point in my business career. Because up to that time, I had been in business for 20 years, and I've been in it for 31 years. But that was the lowest point, 2009, April. And I'll never forget it. You see, one night, I was in bed with my wife, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I knew that my wife wasn't sleeping, and she hadn't been sleeping, a lot of tossing and turning. So I finally just got up, turned on the lights, and I simply asked her a question. And I simply asked, what's wrong? And she looked back at me and she asked one simple question, because at that point in time, even though she was an executive assistant at this other company, she was aware what was going on in our company. She helped me out with the books, and she knew what was happening. She saw the decrease in the paychecks. She saw the decrease in the business, so she knew. And she asked me one question. It was simply this. She looked me right in the eyes and said, "Are we going to be okay?" Now, you take a guy with an ego the size of mine, and you have the woman that you've been waiting your entire life on, that's dependent, and the whole thing. I mean, it was crushing to my ego. But you know what? I won that night. And I'll tell you why I won that night. Because I knew I was a salesperson. And without hesitation, here's exactly what I said to my wife that night. "You know, honey, I don't know. When it comes to my company, Pro Talk, and it comes to consulting, I don't know. I'm in there swinging every day. I believe I can turn it around. I think it's going to be a long way back. I think it's going to be a tough fight back, but I really don't know." But I think we got to look at it this way. You know, because her and I dated for a while, we just have to take a look at what we've done. You know, Pro Talk's been a lot of fun. That's the name of my company, Pro Talk. Look at all the people we've got to meet. Look at all the places we've got to go. Look at all the things we got to do because of Pro Talk. So when we look back, Pro Talk did a lot for us, and it was a lot of fun. It was my company, by the way. I was on a consulting job. It was where I met my wife. So there's a lot of good things that happened there, and I told her, I said, "But you know what? I can't honestly tell you whether or not the company's going to survive. But here's one thing I can tell you. You married a salesperson, and you married a great salesperson. You married a salesperson that knows how to move a lot of product and hold a lot of gross profit. And here's what I know for a fact. Somebody would hire me, and I'd be able to replace the income that we've lost without a doubt. You know, when you walk down that aisle with me," I told her, "I told you to pick out the house that you wanted, and if this is the one you want, you're not losing it. I told you that when we got married, pick out the cars you want to drive, and you picked them out, and they're sitting in the driveway, and if that's the ones you want, those are the ones you're going to drive. I promise you, you never have to worry about clothing, you never have to worry about food," and I'm telling you that now because I know that, here's what I know, is that you married a salesperson, you married a great salesperson, and I will always be valuable to somebody, again, because I know how to sell, I know how to sell very well, I know how to move a lot of product, and I know how to move a lot and hold a lot of gross profit. You know, it seemed to be what she needed to hear, because she kissed me, we turned off the light, she fell asleep, and she slept well ever since. And you know what? I was proud of that conversation. As hard as it was for me to have to admit all of that to her, I was proud of it because I knew deep down inside, that I would never be unemployed in the United States of America, because I knew how to sell, and I knew how to sell well, and I know how to do that today. I know how to do that today. So the one thing that led me to a sales profession came to fruition, and I had to depend. Now the good news is that my company bounced back. It came back stronger than it ever was. It's stronger today than it's ever been. I mean, literally, I've actually been able to start other companies. I've now started writing books, a whole different speaking career, and the like. But even today, if something were to happen and all that was to go away, I still know that somebody is out there looking for an outstanding salesperson, and I'm that salesperson because, again, I said it once, I'll say it again, I live in the United States of America, and when you can sell, and you can sell well, you'll never be unemployed in the United States of America. So if you're looking for reasons to get into sales, all the reasons I gave you earlier, if you're really considering this, you don't need a lot of education. You don't need college degrees. They help, but you don't have to have them. Billions of people have walked in your shoes before, so the templates are there for you to be successful. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and go to work, it will be the easiest hard job you ever had or the hardest easy job you've ever had. It delivers a lot of freedom. It delivers a lot of income. You can make whatever you want, because I don't care how good your product is, how good your service is. It means nothing if somebody can't sell it, and if you can sell it, and you can sell it well and move a lot of product and hold a lot of gross, then you've got security. You'll never be unemployed in the United States of America. So if you're looking for a reason on why to get into sales, it may not be for everybody, but if you believe it's for you, that's the best reason I can think of, is knowing that no matter what happens, I'll always be able to provide and enjoy the lifestyle that I feel I deserve. My name is D. Jeff Cowan, and I'm coming to you from djeffcowan.com. I hope you enjoyed today's message. I'll be back next week with another great message, but between now and then, do what I always ask you to do, and that's simply this. I want you to go out and find as many clients as you can, as many customers as you can. I want you to show them your products. I want you to get them excited about your products. I want you to sell them your products, and I want you to take the commission, and I want you to live the lifestyle that you so deserve. Because I'm telling you what, you deserve it. Because between now and next week, that's exactly what I'm going to go do, is show people my product, get them excited about it, sell it to them, and continue to live the glorious life that I do. Because the selling profession is one that is great. I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. Make it a great week, everybody. Take care.